welcome back. Another episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks, episode 42. Of course, we got Dakota, myself, and Tim. We took a little week off, but we're back. We're going to give you some double action. We have another episode coming up later this week. But for today, we going to talk some start of NFL free agency, and then a little sprinkle at the end of some NBA talk. But I guess just a sprinkle. To get things started, I think obviously the biggest news. So we have the league year, or at least free agency, officially opens on March 17th. It's in less than 2 weeks, or about 2 weeks, whatever. I can't do math. But J.J. Watt is allowed to sign because he was released, and of all the places, he went to the Arizona Cardinals, which was very shocking to me at first. Tim, I want to know what were your immediate thoughts, and do you think Arizona now has a top 5 pass rushing defense?
First off, I was surprised. 10-year veteran, superstar, future Hall of Fame guy. This screamed, I'm going ring chasing. It seemed like he wanted to get a Super Bowl ring, and I don't blame him. I feel like that's probably what he told Houston. I mean, that's why they released him. When he signed with Arizona, I was like, really? Is this the team you're really going to lock yourself into as your ring-chasing years? Maybe the Cardinals are going to start building something up that I don't see. I think they need a lot more help on that defense outside of 2 incredible pass rushers.
Yeah.
2 incredible pass rushers on the wrong side of 30, though, which, gives you a little hesitation. But you know what? A move like this for the Cardinals, this makes them a little bit more legit. The trade with DeAndre Hopkins is a rare occurrence that only happens because Bill O'Brien was allowed to be a general manager of a football team. J.J. Watt actually signed on. Now that's a name. That's a guy that's looking to win, and he's putting a stamp on we're going to win right now. Good signing for Arizona. I kind of am shocked by how much money he got as well. I don't know if I want to tie, what was it, 231? So
2 years, $31 million with 23 guaranteed.
Yeah, see, I don't know if I want to tie that to a guy that's shown constant injury problems in the last couple of years. It's been a while since he's won those Defensive Player of the Years. I've seen him injured more than I've seen him productive, and I really, I didn't think he really dominated this year to make me think that he could bring it back to where he was at his prime. But
2015 or 2013 was his last MVP, I think, or last Defensive Player of the Year.
I mean, I'll give him
credit 3 times, which is
it's been a couple of years since then, though. We've had a lot of injuries since then. He's on the other side of 30. This just seemed like when he got released, it just seemed like he was going to go to a win-now team, Green Bay, Buffalo, Tampa, if you want, and he was going to take less money and go do it and go chase a ring. Instead, he found that middle ground where he could still get a bunch of cash and with a team that is expected to contend. That division's absolutely loaded right now.
Yeah. Yeah, they went from we've said this a couple of times on the podcast, but NFC West went from being a joke of a division 5 years ago to now they're arguably the strongest, some of the best defenses, playmakers. Now Rams have a really good quarterback, so yeah, that's gonna be an interesting. And poor Russell Wilson, he wanted offensive line help, and now he's got a stronger D-line to go against, but
well, yeah, no, I mean, if Russell wants to throw his team under the bus and his offensive line under the bus and get traded out of the city, I'd imagine he's going to be burning trade me into Pete Carroll's front lawn now after J.J. Watt signed. He's got to go against him and Chandler Jones twice. But the thing is, J.J. Watt played all 16 games this year, which was a good feat for him because he had a couple injury-stricken years. They only put up 5 sacks doing it. 14 tackles for a loss. These aren't the numbers that even sniffed what he was doing before and earlier in his career. And I don't know. I was surprised to see how much money he got and the team that signed him. But it's to the Cardinals' credit. They need to get some credibility on that defense. They need some help. I would think this is the first move because I still don't see them as a contender, especially with how strong that division is. So maybe, this is an all-in kind of move where, they tell JJ, hey, we're not done. We're going to get more help. We're going to be good. We're going to compete. We're going to, try to win the division, make a run in the playoffs. And maybe he's more optimistic than I am. But I did not. If you knew he wanted to ring chase, this was not the team I thought was going to help him in that pursuit. But either way, good for him. He got $31 million out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I do think I mean, they figured out how to use Hassan Reddick this past year. He, played
He's a
pretty
free
well.
agent too. That's what I mean. It shocks me. Like you could have just. I still think you would have signed even off the year he's coming off of. You probably could have signed him cheaper. And
Yeah, I mean that defense needed help though. I think I think it was a good move. I mean, you look at now you have J.J. Watt and then even Buda Baker in the secondary and obviously Chandler Jones. Like I think Watt and Jones, automatic top 5 edge rush right there.
yeah, I'd agree there.
I mean, I would probably still say Ravens, Steelers, maybe the Eagles D line's a little more stout or a little more aggressive. If I was an offense, I'd be more worried to face them. But I think I said this next coming up year would be their Cardinals wild card playoff appearance year. So I think it'll help. I think they'll make playoffs this year.
Oh no, I mean this move puts you on
they
the
kind of have to.
Yeah, this see that's what the thing is. Like this move is a move you make because you're ready. You're going to go all in now. And listen, for the Cardinals, I think it's a big win. I think you gave him a little bit more money than I'd feel comfortable with, but you're still talking about a Hall of Fame defensive player. So I'm not going to kill him for it. And they also need some credibility, but this is what you have to do when Kyler Murray's on his rookie contract. Make the most of it. You got to make the run now. Don't build up, and then by the time you're ready to sign Kyler, that's when you want to go all in. So I don't blame him making the move. I was shocked. I think I was more surprised for J.J. Watt's side for him going there than I was for the Cardinals to bring him in.
I mean, if you look at it, like he had plenty of suitors, so I feel like that was kind of they had to sweeten the deal because I mean, you look at the Packers; they really don't have money. The Bills were definitely an option. The Steelers were an option. So I guess the Cardinals just threw the best. And then, it's kind of close to where he was, and he's got former teammates there, so maybe I guess there's just a connection.
If I'm JJ Watt, I look at because the Cardinals, I could say the same thing. What I'm talking about the Cardinals, I could say the same thing about Buffalo. Buffalo needs to go all in now before they have to pay Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But Buffalo was also knocking on the door. Like the Cardinals they're not even near the house yet, but the Buffalo is definitely knocking on the door. They're ready to compete. I think their defense was their weak spot. I thought offensively they're fine. Keep the offensive line attack. Get a running back. That's what they really need. But they could have used some help on the defensive line and pass rush in particular.
Yeah.
And I think it made the most sense for team and player was him going to Buffalo. I thought that was a team that's knocking on the door, ready to compete right now for a Super Bowl, not a playoff appearance or the division. A team that's ready to compete for the Super Bowl, and arguably, I think he would have done more for fit for the Bills more than he would with the Cardinals. The Cardinals have Jones, they had Reddick, who had a great year, who's a free agent now. I think there was other holes that they could have filled that would help the team more than bringing in J.J. Watt. Where the Bills, I felt like J.J. Watt was the player they really needed. They needed a guy in the front seven who could pass rush, who can be the leader. They had some games where they disappointed in the regular season for sure. And they got bailed out because the offense was awesome. But I don't know. That was the team that I really predicted and thought he would go to. But, it makes it interesting. It makes the NFC West must-see TV for all 4 of them now.
Yeah. One final note about Watt signing with Arizona. I just saw, so he's not the first, Hall of Fame type player to go to Arizona at the end of his career. There's also Emmitt Smith, Edgerrin James, Kurt Warner, and Alan Faneca. So it's pretty big name. I remember the Emmitt Smith thing. That was very weird to see him in a red jersey.
No, of course. Well, I also think all those guys you mentioned, maybe besides Warner, are all much more washed up and older than J.J. Watt is.
Oh, I agree. I think Warner kind of got a second wind to his career.
Yeah.
But yeah, Emmitt. I don't think Emmitt was there for more than 2 years maybe, and he didn't do much. And
pad his stats. That's what he was doing.
Edgerrin James kind of the same deal, but yeah, I think it'll be good. I think it's gonna be hard to stop him if he stays healthy and Chandler Jones is healthy. It'll be hard to stop both those players. So. We'll see if
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting rest of the offseason. But the other news that you whispered about a little bit, and this one kind of surprised me. Russell Wilson kind of, I don't know. I'd say demand a trade, but then his agent went out and said no, he's perfectly happy in Seattle after Russell went and ripped his team, his offensive lineman, his coach, and then listed 4 teams that he would like to be traded to if he was being traded to, but he didn't really want to be traded. So I think he just took the nicest possible way of saying, I want to be traded. Is Russell Wilson actually going to get traded? Because I've stuck to my guns on Deshaun Watson not getting traded, but this is a different situation, I feel like, because Russ is older, I guess you could say, but you know, he's also had incredible success in Seattle.
He probably does have incredible sex.
Well, you know, either or. You could see him maybe really, if he wanted to, like really making it awkward and forcing his way out.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has more leverage than Deshaun does in this situation. But what really surprised me is the 4 teams he listed. Like,
it was Dallas, Chicago,
the Raiders and the Saints.
Raiders is a little odd.
Saints make plenty sense because that's just let me take Breeze's spot on a team that's ready to contend to win a Super Bowl now and not skip a beat.
That would be scary. I mean, the Saints are always in that Super Bowl conversation, but I think that would put them at number 1 probably. Yeah,
the Raiders surprised me. I mean, they have a great offensive line, so I think that's what he's attracted to. But he also mentioned he wants more credit, where he thinks Pete Carroll's getting more credit. You think you're going to go to Las Vegas and play for the Raiders, and everyone is going to get John Gruden's got a longer contract than you do.
Yeah,
you're not going to get any credit if you go to Vegas. It is Gruden's show. You thought being a second fiddle to Pete Carroll's be bad. Wait till you show up to Gruden's training camp.
Yeah,
and then I mean, Cowboys are just a circus. Wouldn't be surprised if they made that move. They obviously haven't tied their ship to Dak yet.
Yeah,
so of course they're ready to move on. And the Bears, I don't understand what he's thinking when he said the Bears. The Bears offensive line, I think, is worse than Seattle, and they might be crazy enough to do that trade. Ryan Pace made the Khalil Mack trade. I think he's perfectly okay with making a huge trade and bringing in the best quarterback that franchise has ever seen.
Is he like from Chicago or something?
No, that doesn't make sense. I don't know what his tie to Chicago is. It's just a weird team to request to when their best wide receiver is a free agent and their offensive line is just as bad as the one you're trying to get away from.
He's from Cincinnati, went to college in Wisconsin. Is Chicago in between? Is that the missing link?
I don't remember anyone ever having the Chicago Bears on their trade list.
Yeah, not right now. I kind of agree with you. Right now, I'm at the point where I don't think Houston is gonna trade Deshaun, mostly because they want to keep him, and I've heard ridiculous hauls like, well, the Panthers would offer like Bridgewater, two or three first rounders, and see a Christian McCaffrey. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
He's definitely worth, the 3 picks in Bridgewater. I don't know about throwing in the running back, but for Russell, I don't see him. Seattle would. I don't know if you can just plug and play any quarterback in that kind of offense with, like you talked about, a terrible offensive line. I don't see him getting traded. And it was funny because it was like last week I was taking a shower and I happened to glance at my phone because it was like going off. And my friend said, what do you think about the Russell news? And I was like, what the fuck happened? Did he get traded? And I was like checking all this shit. And I was like, okay, no, he didn't get traded. But he was like asking me, he's like, do you think like, if Deshaun Watson's getting those kind of offers, like Russ has got to be more? And I'm thinking probably not, because Russ, his contract's pretty crazy. He's a lot older. I don't know what the trade value would be. I mean, probably 2 firsts. And
Russell Wilson, you get a lot. Russell Wilson goes whatever team he wants, and they are a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I think though, if both Deshaun and Russell were like being traded 100%, leaving their team, I think Deshaun's I think the Texans would get more in return than Seattle would for Russell, just because of the age and contract.
I mean, maybe you can go either way on it. I mean,
Russ could probably play for another 5, 6, 7 years, but Deshaun's got probably at least 10, as long as he doesn't, keep getting sacked like he does.
I don't think they're going to trade him. I think that was more of him, like, trying to make some noise, like, wake up, let's get an offensive line in here, let's get better. The Seahawks fired their offensive coordinator, obviously, Schottenheimer, and Pete Carroll literally said he just had a difference in philosophy. We want to run the ball, and he wanted to throw it. And I don't think that was what Russell Wilson wanted to hear. I think he's tired of taking a back. I mean, the guy has kind of taken a back seat his entire career. If you think about it, he's been on the Legion of Boom. Pete Carroll's, a huge head coach, one of the better respected and known head coaches in the NFL. And their philosophy, they've always been a running team. They're never going to air it out. He's never going to throw for 5,000 yards. He's never going to, hit these incredible milestones that all the other, in a pass friendly like league.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I understand his frustration, but the situation looks a lot better than I think he's making it seem. And the fact that he put the Bears on it, like, dude, what do you think the Bears have to offer? Same with the Cowboys. Like, do you really want to roll into that circus? You're worried about not getting credit now. Do you want to talk about your coach taking credit away from you? Wait until Jerry Jones shows up at every one of your press conferences talking about how great of a win the team just had.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're in a weird age now where players are much more open to being public about their feelings on their teams. I mean, even the NBA, we see like Draymond Green talking out, Kyrie, and that whole Nets roster is full of people who are very vocal about their contracts and where they sign and stuff. But NFL, like, players are using their platform to say, hey, look, if you're not going to, in Russell's case, keep me upright, prioritize my health as your franchise quarterback by building a line around me, I'm going to make a scene. He's not making a scene, but he's going to make it known that he's not happy, make it known that he wants improvements to that offensive line. I don't blame him, honestly. I don't think he's ever had a top in the top 15 of lines in his time in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit more to it. The other thing is the dude's got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf he's throwing to. Where is he going to find a better wide receiver core to go to? Like, that's not a terrible situation to be playing with those two. I think I don't remember what year it was or a couple of years ago. I'm going to say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they traded to go get Dwayne Brown, who's a very good
Texans. Yeah.
Tackle. I think he's been injured since he's been with Seattle. He hasn't really done as much, and he's older now. But it's not like they just completely ignored it. It's just I don't know. He makes this situation, I think, seem worse than I and other fans looking from the outside kind of looked in. But I do think mostly it's down to the philosophy thing. I think he wants to cook and he wants to do his thing. And, this was the year of let Russ cook, and they fired his offensive coordinator at the end of the season. So maybe I do feel like that might have played a lot into it, firing his offensive coordinator after his arguably Russell Wilson's best year, because they have a philosophy difference. Well, what if Russell Wilson's philosophy is similar to what Schottenheimer's was, and you just went and fired that guy? I think that might have upset him more than anything, but just the teams that he wants to go to, I find baffling.
I mean, he was sacked 52 times this season, which is 2 more than Carson Wentz and 3 more than Deshaun Watson.
Well, that's true. That's also to a point of the way he plays, though. You're talking about 3 guys. I know all 3 of them played behind bad offensive lines, but all 3 of them extend the play and try to make something crazy happen instead of just taking the first read when it's there. And I think that generates a lot of sacks.
Little fun fact: Peyton Manning is the least sacked quarterback in NFL history, which is weird because he is not mobile at all. That just means he has quick release and good line.
So that's what I mean. It's like the 3 guys that get them sacked the most are also the 3 guys to hold on the ball probably more than anyone else in the NFL.
And they're all mobile, so yeah. Yeah,
they correlate, Even if they had a great offensive line, I'm sure all 3 of them would still take a bunch of sacks, like just the way they play. But
to a degree, I agree. Yeah, but I also think that Seattle's line is built to run more than anything else. So,
and that's what they want to do.
I mean, they rotate running backs in every year, and they always have a top rusher. So, I don't know.
Wilson seems like more of a legacy thing. Like I just every year he's there. Like obviously they had the early success, the Super Bowl win. Then they lost the second one they should have won. And then they've been right around like the playoffs. They've been in the playoffs like at least a hunt consistently every year. But like now it kind of feels like he wants to go to a team where he can not only win, but like pad the stats. Like go to a pass happy team, go with John Gruden, go play for Mike McCarthy or, Ryan Pace is another offensive mind. Sean Payton, like these are all offensive minded coaches. Pete Carroll's a defensive mind coach. He wants to run the ball. Like I feel like he's at this point in his career where he'll never say it, but it's more about legacy. Like, let me pad these stats. Let me get my Hall of Fame resume a little shinier. I don't see Seattle as a Super Bowl contender at the moment, unless they made a couple moves. They could be with Russell Wilson and the pieces they have around him. But, maybe he looks as a team like the Raiders or the Bears, and he's like, you know what? They're right around the same as the Seahawks, without me, like the roster around them. But I'll be able to throw for 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. Maybe that's what he wants to do. And it's curious, but I do think your point on the NBA is exactly right. Like stars have driven the NBA or make their own decisions in the NBA, and they've been doing it for a while, and they force trades when they want. And the NFL, they never got to that point, but mostly because it's such a team game that, no one player is bigger than the team. But now in the age of the quarterbacks get to that point,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a hard game to play. I just think Russ is just trying to make it known that he hasn't been happy. But I don't think he actually wants to leave Seattle. I think he wants to stay a Seahawk the rest of his career. But
calling out your offensive line saying that they're terrible, that's.
I mean, I don't think about that. I don't think he was quoted as saying that, but.
Well, he went on a national interview, or who did he do? An interview with like Dan Patrick or Peter King, whoever it was. Like, it's not like he even just tweeted it out. Like, he went and did his own like interview and went out of his way to go speak his mind and say, "I'm not happy with this offensive line." Like, what if they don't trade you? When are you going to go back? And he'd be like, "Oh, no, it's cool, bro."
They're just gonna, all right, first play of the game, you can run right by me.
It's gonna be like that. It's gonna be like the longest yard when Adam Sandler starts throwing that game, and the teammates just let him get eaten at the end.
Yeah. So to talk about some other players, so those who are not bound to a contract, we'll do a couple names. We'll start with some of the big names, and then I think we'll just do like a rapid fire, quick team thoughts for some other players. But obviously starting with probably the top free agent, Dak Prescott, the former, possibly still Cowboys quarterback. I would not be surprised if Dallas finds a way to fuck this up and he walks away, because apparently he wants like close to Patrick Mahomes money. I saw. Well,
this is what happens when you wait till the very possible last minute to.
Well, not to mention, if anything, his value probably went up more this year than it did the year before when he was trying to hold out and get some more money, because
of course,
when he was balling out for that first month and a half and then got hurt, or month, however long it was, and then obviously saw how poorly the Cowboys were without him. So I think ultimately he does stay. Dallas pays him. Honestly, I would not be surprised though if they do pay him, that if another big player like Amari Cooper or Zeke or Gallup gets traded away because they can't afford all these contracts. But
they probably have to. I mean, I'd expect them to franchise tag him again.
No, I think they're going to get a deal. They have to get a deal. I don't think they would. That's good. That's expensive to franchise tag him again. Go through all this bullshit again. I think Dak would. I mean, not that he can control the franchise tag, but he much rather get his contract, get his bread.
Of course. I mean, honestly, after Russell Wilson listed the Cowboys as a team he'd want to be traded to, the Dak Prescott for Russell Wilson trade, I think that's looking like a very likely option. Maybe Dak and him, first, maybe a second, 2 firsts if you have to do it. I think Jerry would do it in a heartbeat.
I would hate that.
But it's like you just feel like they really they're not invested in Dak. Like for some reason they don't want to tie themselves to Dak for the future. And now one of the best quarterbacks in the league just put you on a list of 4 other teams, or 3 other teams that he wants to go to. And the Cowboys honestly have the best quarterback to offer. Derek Carr would probably go over in a Raiders deal.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Seahawks, I look at maybe Russell to the Cowboys for Dak and maybe at least in one first, maybe two, maybe a first and a third. That's not a bad haul.
I mean, it would definitely blow up the league. That would be I would hate to see Russell Wilson in a Cowboys uniform.
I'm telling you, as soon as he put the Cowboys on that list, Jerry's old decrepit fingers were dialing that Seattle area code as soon as possible.
Yeah. So my pick is Dallas. Where you think he's going to Seattle?
I'm saying he's getting franchise tagged or he's getting traded to Seattle. I think both options are more likely than he's getting a long-term contract.
Fair enough. I think 49ers, Broncos, or even Carolina, if he doesn't sign or doesn't get franchise tagged, are also good options.
Oh, yeah.
Trent Williams, I can't imagine the Niners don't re-sign him. Like, they gave up, a first and something else for him? Like, I thought they had a contract extension. I didn't realize he was going to be a free agent, but
they had an agreement with him that they wouldn't franchise tag him after this year. I feel like you don't make that agreement without both sides being like very interested in an extension. Yeah. Like, that seems like I don't want to waste time. I want to just be here. I think the Niners are going to bounce back and be the team we saw last year. They're
do too.
Players, I
think they'll be there. If I had to list like teams that are going to be scary next year, coming off a bad year, Niners are up there. I would say the Rams, even though they didn't have a bad year, I think the Rams are going to be even better. And maybe, honestly, I think Washington could surprise if they get a competent, like a quarterback that can play well enough. Like, they could definitely win the division. So
we'll see. I mean,
but that defensive line is nice, and
I mean, the Niners were the second worst team in football, and then went to the Super Bowl the next year, so they could definitely do it again. But no, I feel like the move for Trent Williams, I don't see why he would want to leave. It's a great spot for him. They're a team that's ready to win. I think they get it done. I have a feeling that they're going to make that happen.
Another player on the offensive side, Allen Robinson. I don't think he's going back to Chicago. Seems pretty set on leaving the Windy City. I want to say Ravens, but I also don't think Baltimore is going to like just open the safe for a wide receiver. I feel like they never really do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the Jets or the Dolphins, because I feel like Robinson doesn't want to just get paid. I feel like he wants to go to an actual contender. So I don't know about the Jets, but he's out there. So Ravens, Jets, and Dolphins would be my picks for him. I can't really narrow it down because I have honestly no idea. But
so it's a strong wide receiver free agent class in particular, and with Juju, Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
I like the Dolphins getting at least one of them. They have a ton of money, cap wise, and I think it just makes sense for them. So I don't hate the Dolphins choice, but Allen Robinson, I see him going somewhere else. And I see him going to a team that just got a brand new quarterback that are going to surround him with talent right away because they want to win. And I think that Carson Wentz is going to play with the best wide receiver he's seen his entire career. Even though he played 6 or 7 years, whatever it was with the Eagles, and the Eagles just refused to put talent around him. The Colts have the fourth most cap space this offseason, according over the cap. The Colts aren't a stupid organization. They're going to invest everything that they needed to get Wentz there. They're going to surround him with talent. See, the Eagles, they chose not to do that. They chose to invest all heavily around Wentz. They put some guys around him. The team was really good. They won a Super Bowl and then just chose to, put a bit of a middle finger to Carson Wentz and just leave him out to dry. So I think the Colts make a splash. I think T.Y. walks, and I think they bring in Allen Robinson, and he gets the number one wide receiver right away from day one.
That would be something.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, you have the cap space. You have a brand new quarterback. Why not bring in the talent right now? You traded to go get Wentz. That's a move to go and win right now. Go get the best wide receiver on the market as well.
I do think they'll either bring in like a top 5, 6 free agent wide receiver if they don't re-sign Hilton. I think they're probably. For last I heard that Hilton wants to stay with the Colts. So we'll see
I
what
mean, they
happens.
have
But
they're $43 million in cap space. They could. I don't think Hilton's going to command top dollar.
no,
Robinson will. Maybe if you can get T.Y. cheap, maybe you can bring them both in. But
that would be a nice duo, both of those guys.
go get yourself a number one wide receiver. You just went and gave up all the picks to get the quarterback that you wanted.
Well, you gave up one pick, 2 picks, but
still, you brought in a franchise quarterback. Go surround him with talent. Do what the Eagles couldn't do, and surround them with talent.
So I'll say Robinson to the Dolphins. You say Robinson to the Colts.
Yep.
So then we have Chris Godwin. I really think I think he's going to command too much money. I think the Bucs are just going to slap a franchise tag on him. Call it a day. I think they want him. I think he does want to stay, but I think he wants to get paid. So I think they'll be like, here you go, franchise tag. Have fun for a year.
Yeah, the franchise tag, now that would be out of his control. If the Buccaneers want to do that, then that's what they got to do. But they have a lot of free agents. They have Godwin, they have Barrett. I believe Vita Vea is also a free agent.
Yeah, I think they I don't think Barrett's.
Well, they won't franchise tag Barrett again.
No, and I don't think Barrett's gonna command a ton of money. I think he's definitely a top free agent, but I don't think he's.
I do. He's the best pass rusher. Pass rushers cost money.
Yeah, I mean, you got some others out there, but I think they'll find a way to bring back Godwin and Shaq Barrett to keep Brady satisfied. But I think they'll try to keep that team together as much as they can. It's always hard for a Super Bowl winner to not lose tons of players and coaches, but I think both those guys Godwin and Barrett are their top targets. So I
think Barrett's definitely leaving after he got the franchise tag last year, and he already has openly said, I want to break the bank.
Mm-hmm.
I think Godwin's going to have a similar mindset. Think this guy, he's a young guy. He just won a Super Bowl. He's got the Super Bowl win. Go get your money now. He was a second round draft pick. He's been on a rookie contract. Mm-hmm. I think he goes to break the bank. He could get the franchise tag. Would not be surprised if they put it on him. You are right about that. But if he's not getting tagged, the team I like for him, and you mentioned him with Aaron Rodgers, I think the Dolphins go bring in Chris Godwin. They have the money. They're I think they have 33. Let me double check. They have $32 million according over the cap in cap space. Two is your young guy. You need some weapons around him. It also opens you bring in Chris Godwin. It also opens up for more potential at that draft spot at number 3.
That's true.
Because the Dolphins are a team that might want to trade back. They're in a good spot. They're at that 3. Trevor Lawrence is going 1. The Jets, maybe they trade back at 2. Maybe they draft Sewell to protect to bookend with Becton. Maybe they draft a wide receiver to help Darnold. Maybe they draft another quarterback. Who knows? But then the Dolphins are 3. You have your quarterback. You could draft Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith there if you want, or you could draft Sewell and sign Chris Godwin, or you trade back. I think then bringing in Chris Godwin gives them a little more flexibility in what they want to do in the draft. So I think Chris Godwin to the Dolphins is a good pickup if he's not getting a franchise tag, which I definitely see as an option.
Yeah. He's another name that I heard it rumored to the Dolphins, which again really depends on if they bring in a receiver. Aaron Jones, the running back of the Packers. From what I understand, they were talking in December, and then things didn't go well. And the Packers are pretty tight financially. They're going to lose one of their linemen. I forget which one it is, but I think it's their center is a free agent.
Lindsay, yeah, he is a free agent.
Yeah, and I don't see them. I think Jones could get more money elsewhere, and I think he'll leave. I think the Dolphins are a pretty good spot for him because, like you said, bringing weapons to help Tua. I think the Jets, Bills, or Dolphins are good fits for Aaron Jones. Bills would be nice. That would be a nice little combo with Josh Allen, and then you have Zach Moss and Singletary as the complementary, backs. That would be a nice backfield. But
Jones would be nice. That's what they need. They need a veteran running back like that, or they don't have a lot of money, so they would have to try to. Jones would have to take a little bit less, I would have to imagine, but
yeah. But I can see if the Dolphins don't bring in like Robinson or Godwin or even Galladay, who we'll talk about in a second, I think they'll draft either Smith or Chase in at number 3 or 5 or 6 if they trade back, and then sign Aaron Jones. So I don't know. We'll see. He's an interesting because running backs they don't always get paid, and their contracts aren't always massive because of their durability and stuff. But he scores a lot of touchdowns. So
yeah, no, he's been good. It's funny is that 2017 draft class for running backs, which was like incredible. I think it was 2017. I could be wrong on the year, but the one with McCaffrey and Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon and all those guys, like they all signed, and like the only guy who's not, well, Aaron Jones assuming gets a big contract. The only guy who's not looking at a big contract is Leonard Fournette, and he's the one that won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's I guess that's how the cookie crumbles. Where do you think Jones goes then?
I like the Dolphins. I do like the Dolphins as a pick. I'm not going to rule out him leaving the Packers, but at the same time, the Packers already drafted A.J. Dillon, so it wouldn't surprise me. If the Dolphins don't go wide receiver and they end up drafting Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase, I definitely see Aaron Jones going to the Dolphins. It's just where they want to put their money in. I could absolutely see them drafting Smith or Chase and then bringing Aaron Jones, and that would be a nice offense.
It would.
Then again,
Yeah, the only other real skill player that comes to mind, as far as like elite level free agents, Kenny Galladay. I really think he's going to go back to Detroit, but I would not be shocked to see him go to New England. I think
that's an interesting.
He's a sexy name for the Patriots. I don't know if they're going to bring back Cam or what they're going to do at quarterback, but I think having an actual, because their receiving core is really young. So I think having someone who's a little older come in and be able to be that veteran presence.
Well, he would also be by far the best wide receiver on that team.
Yeah, hands down. So I would say Lions if he doesn't resign, then the Pats.
I like Kenny Galladay. Stick with the Lions. They got a new coach. They obviously made the trade and got rid of Stafford, but they still have Goff. So if Goff's there, like he's good enough that you should expect to at least compete for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And for the Lions, who haven't seen success since like the Roosevelt administration, I think any hope you can have is important. So, especially Galladay is probably the Lions are a train wreck.
Yeah.
They rarely draft and develop players into good players. So I think they hold on to him. If not, I do kind of like I think he'd be a nice fit with the Ravens. A nice go up and get it, because you got Hollywood Brown, who's like that speed, small slot guy. But go up and get him kind of guy, and Galladay. And then he was hurt this year, but the year before when he led the league in touchdowns, he was just jumping over dudes and just grabbing the ball. That helps when your quarterback's not the most accurate in the world. Having a guy that can just go up and get it kind of helps. So I do lean more to the Lions to keep him, but I don't even know if I see the Ravens sign him, but I think that would be a really nice fit for team and player.
One of us had him in our top 10 wide receivers. I can't remember who it was, but
it was the smarter of the two of us. It was me, of course.
I don't know about that, but I think he's I think he's a little underrated. I think Lions would think
Well, I had him in the top 10. I rated him correctly. That was your own fault.
Well, I might have had him at 11 then. I don't know.
No, 11 doesn't count when we do a top 10.
Yeah, and then, as far as other big names, one that's kind of interesting to me, and then we'll kind of do like a rapid fire, the Saints edge rusher, Trey Hendrickson. I feel like this is a case where a player played in a good system with good defenders around him and flourished. And so teams are going to like give him a big contract, and who knows if he'll actually come through with that. But I think he would look really good next to Myles Garrett in Cleveland. That would be a nice little duo. Because I think Cleveland is primed to compete again for deep in the playoffs, looking at how they did this year. If they can improve that roster even a little bit and get healthy OBJ if they don't trade him.
No, I agree with you. I do like that name. I know the Saints are like a gazillion dollars over the salary cap. I do smell like kind of he has like a perfect franchise tag situation for exactly what you said. Like he flourished in a good system with good players around him, and this was like his first year of success. But if they're not tagging him, I kind of like him to go to another young team that's building something up and a coach that loves defense. I wouldn't be surprised if one of their division rivals come knocking on the door and the Panthers offer him a deal. Put him on the other side of Burns, and Derek Brown. That's a nice little defensive unit there.
That is pretty nice.
I mean, the offensive pieces I think are there. Well, they have a big free agent that we didn't mention, Taylor Moton, their offensive lineman, who I think they have to sign.
They absolutely need to bring him back.
That has to happen because their offensive line isn't the greatest.
He's probably him and Trent Williams, probably the best two. Maybe Tooney with the Patriots, best lineman available, but
for sure. Well, Sheriff for the Redskins is available too.
They also a team that absolutely has to re-sign that guy. Washington needs to bring him back.
If I'm the Panthers, you sign Moton, he has to come back. Probably, see if you could draft a little bit more offensive line help. But you have the skill players. McCaffrey's a stud. The wide receivers, I think they have a good wide receivers core. I like DJ Moore, I like Curtis Samuel, and I like Robbie Anderson. The quarterback's the question mark. I don't know if they're going to get the quarterback this year. Maybe they get him in the draft. Maybe they get a guy in veteran free agency. But why not? We talked about this before. Build up the team. That defense is young and it's ascending, and Matt Rule is a defensive guy. Mm-hmm. Burns, I think he's going to be a stud. I think he's going to break out next year into a full-fledged superstar. Derek Brown looked very solid as a rookie. There's pieces there, I think, to be excited for. They need a little bit more help, but bringing another young guy who fits the timeline that they're on for that defense, let them grow with Burns and Brown, I think it's a good move.
I could see that. Carolina, it was weird. I thought Bridgewater was maybe a little better than I thought he was, but
he stinks.
He was not statistically was not very good last year. They lost a lot of close games, and he wasn't
he stinks
good in those games. But
McCaffrey also missed pretty much the entire year.
This is true. But yeah, now whatever names we didn't cover, I think I'll just we'll do a quick rapid fire. We'll just say one team, whether that's a re-sign or whatever. So first up, we'll go with Leonard Williams, the D tackle, DN, whatever you want to call him. I would say the Giants bring him back. He did pretty well with their system.
They have to. Gettleman took a bet, took a lot of heat, and it's worked out for him. There's no way he's going to let that go.
Yeah. Another defensive player, Denver safety Justin Simmons. Another player where I don't see how he walks away without a contract from Denver. He's a very important part for their defense.
They have top 5 cap space. There's no reason to not bring back the leader of your Von Miller's the leader, but your best player on your defense, arguably.
Yeah, for sure. We said Taylor Morton, definitely going back to Carolina. Brandon Sheriff back to Washington. Bud Dupree, I have to imagine Pittsburgh saw how bad they were without him on defense that they would bring him back. So I would say go back, re-sign with the Steelers.
Yeah. But the Steelers are in salary cap trouble. That might be harder said than done. I kind of like him on, I don't know what their cap space is a little bit better, but they don't have much. Kind of like him on the Titans. Take the role that Clowney clearly sucked at. Let Clowney walk and see if Ben Dupree can do better than the bare minimum you got from Clowney.
Speaking of, Davey Clowney, also a free agent.
Dude.
I would imagine his market's going to be pretty low now because if he was in that injury, he didn't really do anything. I think he goes back on another 1-year deal with the Titans.
Ready? You knew there's going to be plenty of them that do this. Takes less money, goes hang out with in South Florida, meets up with Brady, and rolls it out with the Buccaneers. You know what? If you want to talk about a guy that should take less money to go to a good situation or rebuild his image, maybe win a Super Bowl ring, replace Shaq Barrett, because I don't see any way Shaq Barrett comes back there. He said already he wants to break the bank. He's got a ring already. I think Javion Clowney would be he'd be like Leonard Fournette. Look at Leonard Fournette, had absolutely no value, had to take a cheap deal, went to a team that he knew was going to compete, and now look at him. He's Super Bowl champ and changed his whole image. Clowney needs that.
Fair. Offensive lineman Joe Tooney, formerly of the Patriots. I think he's going to go to the Bengals because the Bengals need to protect Burrow. So
The Bengals, yeah, they have some money. I kind of like that too. They're going to throw money at an offensive lineman.
all of them. They're going to throw money at all of them.
Yeah,
Like
I won't.
strippers. Just
Yeah,
let it roll.
and probably draft a couple too.
Wouldn't hurt. Then Matthew Judon, Baltimore edge rusher. This one's he's like close to 30 now, I think. But I would say he goes back to Baltimore.
Yeah,
Maybe
he's
slides
a
over to
tough one.
Cleveland, but
They tagged him last year. I don't feel them bringing him back is going to happen. They traded for Yannick last year. I'm going to go. You know what? We haven't said the team with the most cap money yet on any of these free agents, so I'm going to say the Jaguars signed Judon. I say they just give him a ton of money and be like, hey, come over. We'll hang out with Urban.
speaking of Yannick, he is also a free agent. We talked about them earlier. If not the Ravens, I think the Bills would be a really nice spot for Yannick. I don't know if it's the system he played in with Minnesota and Baltimore that he really didn't shine, but I think another team, give him an off season to actually practice, learn the system. I think the Bills would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, I like it. I already said I think the Ravens are going to let Judon go, so I don't imagine they're going to let them both go in the same off season. They traded to get him last year. I think they keep him.
So yeah, after Yannick, then Will Fuller. See, this is where I think Deshaun's staying in Houston factors in because they need to make him happy somehow. So bring back Will Fuller, let him keep one of his players at least. So I say he goes back.
Yeah, I don't see. Will Fuller's tenure, it doesn't matter how optimistic you are. You cannot look back at that tenure and say it's been successful. He's been hurt every year. And the first year he's been healthy, he got suspended. I think they're going to move on from him. I could see him coming to Tom Brady's life and see if he can revitalize his career as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Godwin walks. They bring in a cheap option like Will Fuller. Everyone's going to want to play with Tom Brady.
That's true. Sounds a little weird, but it's true. And then just the last player that I was looking at, Carl Lawson, Bengals young edge rusher. I saw I think if I'm Cincinnati, I bring him back because he's an important piece of that young team. But what would be scary if he went out to LA, teamed up with Aaron Donald. That would be a nice addition to that line. It would fit in perfectly. NFC West is going to be D-line town. So
that's true. That would, I like that spot. That'd be a nice spot for him. I kind of wouldn't be surprised if Cowboys came knocking. They need defensive help.
Yeah.
They just, they got a little bit of money. They need anything on defense and pass rush in particular. I mean, who was their best pass rush last year? Aldon Smith, after 4 years removed from the league.
Yeah, that was something for sure.
What about a name you didn't mention yet? I'm surprised. He's one of the biggest free agents. What about Shaq Barrett?
We did talk about Shaq Barrett.
Oh, I didn't get a prediction from you.
I said they're gonna tag Godwin and then bring back Barrett and re-sign him.
Oh, don't remember that.
Did you black out? It was like 10 minutes ago.
No, we were talking about Chris Godwin, and you whispered something about Shaq Barrett. I figured he would deserve his own little montage.
What are your thoughts on Shaq Barrett? You just said a couple minutes ago that you don't think they're gonna pay him, but
no, another team will. And he's gonna go to a team of money, second largest cap space out of anyone, and a team that has got a GM that loves the trenches and a coach that loves the D line. JETS, baby.
Jets.
I think of all free agents and teams, that is probably the best match in heaven.
See, the problem with that is I saw so many players like linked to the Jets just because they have money, but I don't see them just splurging because you gotta look at it. They're not ready to compete necessarily.
No.
So I don't see them going and like grabbing Allen Robinson, grabbing Aaron Jones, grabbing Shaq Barrett. Like I think they'll sign one or two big, within the top 25 of the players, but I think they're going to focus more on the draft, using their picks, formulating that team. I got to imagine Sam Darnold is getting traded because I think they're going to take a quarterback. I've seen too much of it where a team already had a quarterback and they're like, we haven't been good. He's been here a couple 5-6 years,
Hey, it's new coach, new GM. They're not
Yeah.
fighting Darnold.
So I expect Darnold to be traded, and I think the Jets will have a 2-year rebuild, and then by their standards, hope that team's going to be ready to push against probably a retooled Patriots team and a Dolphins and Bills team that's going to be strong. So I wouldn't be shocked if the AFC East is actually competitive in 2 years.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the Jets are obviously the draft starts with the Jets because we all know the Jaguars are taking Trevor.
Yes.
They're an interesting team because they have a quarterback. We don't really know how good he actually is, but he has the traits of being a franchise quarterback. But they also have a ton of money, ton of draft picks. And I really like their GM and I really like their coach. I feel like they have the right people, ton of money, ton of draft picks. They could build something. And you are right. I don't see them splurging on everything. I don't see them bringing in Allen Robinson or Aaron Jones or anything like that.
No.
Shaq Barrett, I do, because that matches with what the head coach and the GM wants to do. But with the Jets, I wouldn't be surprised if they look at this situation with the resources we have, we could really build something around Sam Darnold and give it a go. Why not? Is Sam Darnold better than Zach Wilson? How quick are they trying to win? Sam Darnold, you have to figure is going to be ready to get you to a contender or at least compete for a playoff spot quicker than any of these rookie quarterbacks are.
True. Yeah, they're going to be a fun team to watch. But I think that's a pretty good, intro to free agency coming up soon. We'll see more names fall. Like Kyle Rudolph was just released today after 10 years with the Vikings. We'll start to see more and more players. There'll probably be a couple surprises, I'm sure, of teams that are like, yeah, we just can't afford you anymore. I'm sorry. So
yeah, I mean, we'll expect a few of them from the Eagles as they're the second worst cap situation in the league.
Yeah, this is true. That team's gonna get pretty young pretty fast, I think.
Yeah.
But it'll be hey, you know what? I've come to terms with it, as weird as it is. I still can't believe Wentz was actually traded, but I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to enter the Jalen Hurts era because I swear if they draft a quarterback.
Well, that's until they draft Trey Lance at number 6. Then we'll have a different era to usher in.
I think people would start rioting in Philly. I think it would be bad.
You know what a free agent I really do like for the Eagles? And obviously they're not going to sign anyone in free agency because we don't have any money, but a guy who I think fits in well, assuming they don't take a quarterback at 6, which would drive me nuts. Jacoby Brissett just played for Sirianni with the Colts. Veteran guy. He's cheap. He's not, and I don't think Brissett's going to ever want to start. You bring in a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick after a couple of bad games from Hurts, he's going to want to start, and fans might cheer for him. No one's going to be begging for Jacoby Brissett to come off the bench. But he's like, I mean, when you're the $50 million over the cap or whatever you are, Jacoby Brissett is the sexy free agent name you get.
You know what quarterback name I like for the Eagles? I could see them throwing in a late draft pick to get Mariota from the Raiders. I think he would be a nice backup because him and Jalen are kind of somewhat similar builds, a little like speedy, more fast quarterback.
See,
pocket.
The one thing I don't get, I've heard a lot of buzz about Mariota suddenly, like he's this hot commodity that people.
He played well, and when he was, when Carr got hurt, so.
Yeah, but Mariota wants to start. Like he's got some buzz to him. I think he could get a starting chance.
Did you talk to him personally?
No, but I'm just, there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. I have a feeling that Marcus Mariota is going to get a couple opportunities. I don't think he's going to want to back up Jalen Hurts on a terrible team. That doesn't sound like an opportunity he wants anything to do with.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I know we're, obviously Eagles fans at heart, but I really don't think that they're going to be as bad as everyone's saying. That team that won 4 games last season was decimated with injuries. I think if they remain, somewhat healthy, they could still win like 7 games if Jalen plays like how he played at the end of the year.
Well, let's see who's on this team because they're going to have to do more subtraction than they are addition.
But I don't I don't think people are acting like this team's going to be like another top 5 draft pick team next year. I don't see that at all.
Oh, see, contrary, I do see that. Well, first off, we had
Maybe,
4 wins, and we're going to get worse.
I could
We
maybe
have
with
to.
the whole like new coaching staff, it was super young coaches, young team, maybe, but
But
I don't know. They have too many talent. Like the line's still really talented. I think Mailata is going to have a breakout year this year. Miles Sanders is still a hell of a running back. Hopefully they can get something out of Rager. I don't know. I still and the defense is still good. Like they held their ground last year. I don't know. I don't think they'll be top 5 worst team, but I think
we'll see. I mean, you're talking about a 4-win team that realistically is probably going to have to get rid of Zach Ertz, probably going to have to get rid of Malik Jackson. We already got rid of Wentz. You know, I know Jeffrey and Jackson didn't do anything, but they're both gone. Deshaun, that is.
yeah. I mean, also keep in mind, it's not like the Eagles were getting blown out in all these games that they lost. So,
well,
maybe like it felt like it, but the score wise, like I think the only thing that really blew out the Eagles was the Rams, if I remember correctly. But
we'll see. You just look at a team that has 4 wins and is this far over the cap, and you just realize something isn't right. The Saints are the only other team that is this far over the cap as the Eagles, and they were a legit Super Bowl contender last year.
Yeah,
you're talking about a team that is just in bad of cap situation, and we had 4 wins to show for it. That is not a good recipe.
I'm not saying they're going to make playoffs. I'm just saying I don't think they're going to be a bottom feeder, like 2-win, 3-win team. I think they'll win 6 or 7.
If they win 6 or 7, Jalen Hurts is going to have a hell of a year.
We'll see. We will see.
We'll see.
Let's do a quick little sprinkle of NBA. What have you been hearing? What have you been feeling? What's going on in that mind of Tim about basketball?
So obviously we talked a little bit about that. I think the East is pretty easy. It's a 2-team race. It's the Nets and it's the Sixers. All right, the 3-team race. I'll throw in the Bucks. I won't disrespect Giannis that much, but until they win an actual playoff series against a legit team, I'm
had a nice run this past week. They've been playing a lot better.
Yeah, but they've had a nice run the last 2 or 3 regular seasons, and that hasn't gotten them anywhere either.
That's true.
I mean, the East. We could sum this up as 3 teams. You have Giannis, the big 3 in Brooklyn, and then the Sixers. You have the Celtics, surprisingly, at 4, who at 18 and 17 have a 514 winning percentage, which wouldn't even get you into the top 10 in the Western Conference. The Dallas Mavericks at 17 and 16 have a better winning percentage, and they're not even close to the playoffs. The Celtics are going to host a home game. So, the East is always worse than the West, but this is just eye-numbingly bad.
Yeah, I don't catch a lot of Celtics games. What exactly is wrong? Like, why are they so like? I'm not hearing Jason Tatum's name at all in any discussions. Like, he's
an all-star. I mean, you would be surprised to know that they have 2 all-stars on their team. I mean, Kemba's nowhere near the Kemba we've come to used to. And Marcus Smart's been hurt, which just also hurt them. But they don't have a down low. They don't have any big men. They got I think Cantor's there. Or not Cantor. That good though. Not Cantor. Who is it? Tice and Tristan Thompson, I believe, is who they have right now. I'm like, these guys aren't going to give you anything. But I mean, outside that, it's amazing because the East is actually filled with bottom feeders. You talk about bottom feeders the last 5 years. You're talking about the Knicks, the Hornets. Both of them are in the playoffs right now.
Yeah,
which is just surprising. I really still think this comes until Giannis proves me wrong in the playoffs. I think this comes down to the Sixers and the Nets. The Sixers need to make another move. The Nets, you know what? They just got to hope that their big 3 can just outscore everyone else because they don't play any defense, and there's not much to that team outside those 3.
Yeah, but they're starting to scare. Like I wasn't sure how they were going to play, but now that they have Harden, they're starting to scare me a little bit for the Sixers' chances. For the Sixers' sake, I will say like Harden is playing out of his mind right now. But he also Kyrie's been doing pretty well too.
Kyrie has been very well too, and they've been doing it without Durant, which is pretty impressive. We'll see. James Harden put up a lot of gaudy numbers with Houston, and that really had nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
He's playing with better teammates than he ever had in Houston, though. But again, it's a two-team race pretty much in the East. Well, three-team with Giannis, and the Nets are missing the defense part. Kevin Durant can play defense to be good. I think he's a good matchup on Giannis, not Joel Embiid. I think Joel Embiid will have his way with DeAndre Jordan. I think that's one of the biggest. I still think the Sixers are winning the East. I think that is predicating off the fact that Morey's going to make a move for some bench help, but mostly because Joel Embiid is, in a league that's going small ball and spread him out to the 3-point line, a big, huge monster like Joel Embiid is hard to cover. There's not many people in this league. Look at the Lakers. They just won a championship last year, having 3 7-footers that played minutes and LeBron James.
Yeah.
If they can use Embiid, and I still think Simmons is arguably the best defender in the league. You look at the Nets.
He's up there for Defensive Player of the Year. Like he's playing really well.
If the Sixers beat
defensively,
if the Sixers go against the Nets, if the Sixers go against the Nets, and Simmons will be the big difference maker in my opinion, because name another guy in the league that you could put on Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant at any moment. And I think he'd match up fine with them.
Yeah.
Durant might be a little tougher because he's got a couple inches on him. But, I saw him get the ball out of Damian Lillard's hand a couple of stops in a row when they played the Blazers not too long ago. And he's one of the hardest covers in the league.
Yeah, Sixers, there's becoming very apparent that they have two of the top freaks in the NBA. Like you have Embiid who's doing step backs as a 7-footer, and then Ben, like you said, he's got size and speed to keep up with the fast point guards like Damian Lillard and Kyrie. So I know we're hard on Ben, but I am happy with his defense the second half of the season leading up to the All-Star game. So we'll see. I think they'll still finish second or third. I'm not as optimistic as you, but
listen, the team looks good. Got a good coach. The shooting's on point. They need more depth. And here's the rumor, and I want to get your point on this. The rumor floating around now is bringing the Philly native back and bringing in Kyle Lowry. And I you know what? If he's okay with taking a smaller role, I love it.
I like it for the right price. Like what would it cost to get him here? I like Maxey. I don't want to give up Maxey. Maybe what? Take Danny Green. You can have Danny Green like a first. I don't Thibault. I wouldn't be super upset, but I still would.
I don't know. See, I don't want to. I don't want to give up Thibault because Thibault can defend in the NBA right now. Like in the if we're in the playoffs, I can put him out there defensively, and he can play some.
I want to keep Maxey and Thibault, but they definitely need to bring in more bench help, more shooters.
You just need a guy who can score on the second unit. You need I'd give anything to have Jordan Clarkson on this team. Like this guy is he's electric. He just scores. That's what he does. He just scores. That's all he does.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It'll be curious to see. I mean, I'm super stoked about Seth. I think he's been a nice signing. But we'll see because I think they will make a trade. It just depends on who they give up. If they can just use draft capital and hold on to those young guys they've just brought in, that'd be good. But if it means Bradley Beal is suddenly a Sixer, okay, hey, you know what? I'm all for it.
No, that Bradley Beal will take Thibault, Maxey, the Liberty Bell, and possibly the Ben Franklin Bridge, depending if they want it or not.
I mean, it's cracked. We could use a new bell anyway. So
there you go. But yeah, I mean, finish off our NBA sprinkle. Those are the teams I like in the East. I think the Jazz are for real.
Oh, yeah.
I still have my doubts, and we mentioned this before about their wing defense against the LA teams. I think the Lakers will be fine. They're just clearly just missing Anthony Davis, and it's a 3-team race on both sides. I see it as the Clippers, Lakers, and Jazz, and then I look at the Bucks, Nets, and Sixers, and those are my actual real contenders.
I agree. I think it would not surprise me if we get to the end and somehow the Jazz are still like they finish number one. I would not be shocked to see them first round exit. I think they got something nice being built, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, the Jazz got a good mixture. Besides wing defense, they've got that dominant down low defender. They got the easy lob, partner in Gobert. You got your sixth man who comes off and lights it up, and then you got Mr. Big Shot. If Donald Mitchell keeps hitting those big shots, they're going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, we had the Heat in the bubble finals, so NBA is always wild. Usually we get usually the one seeds on the West and the East that play, but I think it's going to be. I think they only lost 10 games because of COVID, or not because of the rescheduling to push it back. So I think it's still on pace to be middle of May the playoffs start, or end of April.
I believe so. All right. Final thoughts. They obviously announced the All-Star team not too long ago. Any surprise? You look at the two rosters, they're not even close.
Yeah, I think it was funny that they try to give Jimmy Butler, who was Anthony Davis spot or somebody, Kevin Durant's spot, and he was like, "No, I don't want it," because he's like, "If my teammate's not coming in with me, then I don't want to be there." But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad Embiid was a starter. I expected it. I expected Ben to be a backup, but Tobias, I think. He played a good first half. I'm not surprised he didn't make it. But as far as overall, I'm not. It's always like this, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Same guys every year. But, the newcomers. The East is, you got Julius Randle, Nikola Vukovic, and who's the other? These don't really sound like all-stars. But
Randall's having a hell of a year.
He is.
Don't have good numbers, and believe it or not, what are they, fourth place now? The Knicks in the East?
I believe they're fifth.
Oh, fifth. I saw a thing that, I guess it was 2015 or 2016 season. The Nets, the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Knicks were all in the bottom of the East, and now they're all in the top of the East. So.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that covers our sprinkle.
Yeah, it was a pretty hefty sprinkle, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say look forward to more, obviously NFL talk. Free agency is going to be big. Lots of trades, hopefully exciting stuff. We've already had plenty of movement with quarterbacks and whatnot. So
go it up. Yeah. Until next time.
Alrighty. Peace out.